My name's Mark Bodeker. I'm a community minister here in Great Western Park. This was very much unplanned. I was a curate training in the parish adjacent to Great Western Park, and there was clearly a need as more and more people came and are living here, houses were built, but there wasn't really any community engagement. And so I met with local people who were praying and meeting together. I started some local activities, of which the cafe, where we are at the moment, is part, and started to engage with local people. With working in the community, you get to meet Christians. The challenge really has been, and my challenge to them has been, do you want to focus in this community, specifically in this community? There are a lot of other places where you can worship, and there were a number of people, I think, that felt they had a heart for Great Western Park. And from that, what could we do to engage other people? We run a cafe on a regular basis. Every Thursday, we invite local people to come. A lot of children come, a lot of mums with children join us. And the challenge really is, how do you continue that conversation into something about spirituality, something about a God who loves them? I think we've been very, very upfront about offering Christ in these things. It's not about diluting the message in any way. And so we've had a growing number of people who have joined us, who feel that they're committed into this place. And the witness is growing because of it. We run an activities week, which is a whole a program, a week's program in August, typically in the school holidays. We attract 1,500 to 2,000 people who come through that program. And that is all about fun. It's all about engaging together in activities. The great thing is, if you invite people, they typically come to these things. We know there is a significant amount of debt issues, of loneliness, of high expectations. All these are concerns that we have in the community. But if you have an overt meeting for people who might be in those categories, it's very difficult to get them to come. And so sort of a less direct approach seems to work a lot better. Sometimes an overt approach does not.
My name is Erica Biscoe. I'm one of the ministers here at Emmanuel Church, Bicester. We were church planting in Upper Heyford, which is literally 10 minutes down the road. Chris Boyce and his wife, who were the predecessors here, were church planting on the estate here, and they came here when the estate was about 2 or 3 years old. Chris actually approached my husband Ian, who is also a minister, and said, "I think you're the man for the job." We immediately, not immediately, but we kind of originally thought, please, no Lord, 10 minutes down the road. I was thinking more seaside town. And of course God had other plans, and so here we are. We actually came here at a really exciting time, because although the church plant obviously had been going for nearly 10 years, it was meeting in the local school. But they had actually bought a piece of land opposite the school for £1. One of the things that we really wanted to do from the very beginning, which is really at our heart for Ian and I, is to really connect with the community. And so we saw a need to have a cafe. So after a year of being in the building, or less than that, we were able to open the cafe. And it really has been such an important part for the community here. And from that, we have really built a lot of our ministries. So we do outreaches 3 times a year at the kind of harvest, Christmas, Easter. And that we get people coming from the cafe from that. We've had people from the cafe coming to our cafe church. We've got people, I run a course called Cherish. So people coming to do the course. We've had people from that coming to do Alpha. So it's really been pivotal for us in our planting and in our growth of the kingdom. Having previously church planted in Upper Heyford, we worked with a lot of people that had a lot of need. And one of the things that we ran there, which we thought would work really well here, was having a Christmas meal, a community meal. And that really worked, bringing that community together, not necessarily charging them. But that actually didn't work here. That was something that wasn't what people wanted.
I'm Gareth Lane, and we're on the Berrowfields housing development on the northwest side of Aylesbury. The appointment came about really because there was the churches in town heard that this new housing development was going to be formed, and they thought, oh golly, how are we going to start church mission in this new housing development of 3,000, which was eventually going to be 3,000 houses. They had the foresight to go and buy a house on the housing estate, the diocese did, and then they also got in contact with the new secondary school, which was going to be built on the housing development. It's a secondary and primary together, and they said, would you like a chaplain, someone to pioneer chaplaincy in this new Church of England Academy that hadn't been Church of England Academy before? And they said yes, that would be great. So we had this a job which is half-time in the school and half-time start something on this housing development here. Our youngest one actually goes to the primary school, so we were there at the school gate meeting people straight away. I remember early days, that probably 4 or 5 of us in my lounge praying together midweek, and it then went from there really. It grew from there, and more Christians moved to the area and joined us, and then we were like, how are we going to do mission? This park that you're seeing now, this was going to be opened, and I said, well, let's do a fete. Let's do a fete to get the community here. We might get a few hundred people. So we put on this fete, and bearing in mind there's only about 10 of us at that point who were Christians on this estate, and we managed to get some gazebos and managed to get some free bouncy castles, put it up, and we were gobsmacked when we got 1,000 people turning up to this park and just having a fun day really. And I guess that put us on the map really. Church on Berrowfields. People thought, oh, there is a church, there's something happening, there is a community starting to be formed here. We also started this coffee shop, not knowing whether or not people would turn up and whether they would come, and actually that's been regular, and we've had 40-50 people come into that each week. We tried to do a litter pick for a while, and what we found is those people that were praying together, the Christians, we were part of that litter pick, and we really didn't get very many people joining us. And the idea was we're going to try and get the community coming, doing a litter pick, then we'd go back and we'd have like teas, coffees, cakes and stuff, but it never really took off. Yeah, I had a few people come, but people complained about the litter, but weren't really willing to go out on a Sunday afternoon and litter pick at the estate.
My name is Hasna, and I'm the Pioneer Curate in Centenary Quay, Woolston, Southampton. Well, it's a classic example of God's redemption. I had started off in a traditional curacy, which sadly did not work out for all parties involved. So I resigned, and I was ready to sort of go and continue my life outside of the church. But then I met up with a dear friend of mine called Daniel, and he told me about a post that had come up here, and it started off with a phone call, and the discernment process was about a year, and I'm glad it was, because I needed to take time, and the team needed to take time to collectively decide whether we could work together, and of course we could. It was like hand in glove. My skills, my gifts, and this post came together just like 2 jigsaw pieces even, This is what I was called to do. This is in my DNA. This is God's mission. This is not my mission. And if we are where we're meant to be, doing what we're meant to be doing, God's mission is easy. There have been some challenges in the fact that I live in a block of flats. Knocking on doors is not an option. It's an implicit etiquette, basically, that we don't go and knock on doors. My friend, the lift, has been invaluable in introducing me to different neighbours. And so as soon as I see somebody come into the lift, I just start a conversation, even if it's about the weather. Some beautiful things have emerged. So I spent a couple of months listening and observing. This is natural, obviously, to pioneers. And what's emerged is a good foundation of relationship with my key stakeholders. One of my key stakeholders is Metrics, which is a well-known brand in Southampton. Within 6 months of being here, I had done a nativity, and it went down a treat, and the feedback I got from the manager was he wanted it to be longer and he wanted us to come in more often. You see, I work on the guest host principle, so I didn't want to impose too much, but that 30-minute slot has meant that we're going back into Metrics to do different productions all throughout Christmas. One of the other things that have worked very well is my volunteering in the local library. I volunteer there during story time, and we are liaising with one another to start a homework club as well. So my relationship with the cafe and the library and the other eateries, which are owned by the same owners, has worked really well, I think. And it's a good foundation which we can build up on. Surprisingly, I try to introduce Compline in the evening, on Sunday evenings, and do you know what? It's just me at the moment, and sometimes my friends visit to do Compline with me. And I'll just continue doing it because I like saying Compline. Maybe people will join with me, but I don't know how successful it will be. I'll remain open to that.
The greatest learning for us, I would say, is that if you haven't got a church building, which most pioneers don't have, it's really hard to get people to know that you exist.
I think the greatest learning is listening. You need to listen to what your community wants. You need to listen to what the people are saying to you.
Well, my greatest learning in this curacy has been that every pioneer needs a pioneer advocate to translate pioneer mission to the traditional church.
The opportunity here is infinite. I think one of the really big things is that you can do way too much. You can get too involved and you can stretch yourself. And particularly in an environment where a lot of it is down to you, certainly initially as you gather people in, the danger is that you're doing too much on your own and you don't have the people to consult.
You can't do it on your own. You need a team, for things to flourish and grow. You need to release people in their gifting, enable other people to do that.
I mean, for us it helped because we called ourselves Church on Buryfields, so straight away people knew, you're a church, you haven't got a building, but you're on Buryfields. So I think it helped actually not having a sort of off-the-wall name. It sort of said what we were. That's been quite a learning process.
Well, my hope for the future is world peace. Yes, actually.
So we would love a hangout place that was multifunctional, and we've had this dream of calling somewhere the living room, where actually teenagers could hang out after school, where we as a church could maybe use it for teenage work, use it for adults as well, have it as a coffee shop during the day, where there wasn't a whole load of setup.
For just over a year now, we've been living on the Eco-Town in Northwest Bicester, and we've been looking at what church looks like in that context. So it's very, very early days there, but we're just trying to see what that looks like there. And it's been really exciting for people from here because we can obviously, get people from here with their skills and those with a missional heart and to be involved as well. So it's been exciting. So it's exciting times for us, exciting times for the church here.
I really hope that perhaps a worshipping community will arise in this area, and it may not look like what the traditional church may be thinking of. It may be a bunch of people getting together and having a beer or coffee and talking about life issues. It may even involve introducing Compline, you never know.
We really feel God's working in this community. There's a real harvest out there, and I'm sure He wants us to be faithful, diligent, to work hard. We certainly want to do that, but to take the opportunity really to continue to engage with the community and answer some of those questions that they really want to ask and yet have never had the opportunity to do so. So that's really what we're here for.